Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
And I'm delighted to say that joining us to talk about Millwall, we can talk to Jeff Burnige, former Millwall chairman. Good afternoon, Jeff. It was a 2-0 loss away at Blackburn at the weekend. You must be quite disappointed, although it was seen as quite a tough game. You must be disappointed that Millwall didn't really get the most out of this game.
Keiran, good afternoon. I sometimes listen to and sometimes take part in the Millwall Fans Show on a Friday evening. Nice to speak to you. I must make it clear, I was a fan for 30 years before becoming a director, and I've been a fan again for the 10 years since I've been a director. The 20-odd years in the middle, that was lovely, but being a fan's even better in some ways. Regarding the game at Blackburn, I tell you what my biggest disappointment is that when we lose a game, I'm afraid there will be people who will go online and have a big old moan, and of course they're entitled to their opinion, particularly if you've travelled a long way to watch the team. But I think it's wrong. I think that I'm totally in support of the manager, and I think he does not deserve adverse criticism. However, losing 2-0 at Blackburn, we'd all like to do better than that. And I'm sure that the players and the manager and all fans just can't wait for the game on Saturday, which has got the extra spice of being a local derby with QPR. And I think we'd rather talk about the prospects for that than what was disappointing on Saturday.
Yeah, before we get on to talking about that QPR game, which I'm sure will be a big game for Millwall fans, Neil Harris said that he was very disappointed to be behind at half-time in the weekend's game against Blackburn. He thought it was unjust and we didn't deserve to be behind. Is that a fair reflection from the Millwall manager?
I think it is, yeah. I mean, it was nothing like as good in the second half, but if this happens to any team, I'm not saying that we were unlucky not to get a result. I think that would be wrong, but when you are behind at half-time, unluckily behind, you do open up a bit, and getting a second goal against you can always happen. I think they had several chances after half-time, and our goalkeeper, the excellent Bielkowski, the Polish international that we now have, had to make some saves. But I thought we did well first half, not so good second half.
So obviously it's a big one on Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff at the Den, Millwall v QPR. These are the types of games I'm guessing that all Millwall fans very much look forward to.
Absolutely. I mean, if you could choose to be successful either at home or away, you'd like to be successful in front of 14 or 15,000, wouldn't you? But the fans that do go away, we did really well in the first game at West Brom. We did really well at Middlesbrough. We didn't lose either of those games. And of the other 2 away games we've had in the league, we got beaten easily at Fulham, and we got beaten at Blackburn. I don't think we've reached the point yet where I want to join in with the doom and gloom brigade. So QPR, I can't wait. It's always a good one. We've had some great games with them. Can't wait to get back down the Den. Don't care who it is, but it's even extra spice if it's QPR.
What do you think? What was your realistic ambition, Jeff, ahead of the season for Millwall this season? And has that changed in these first 7 games? Millwall 15th with 9 points. Has your perspective on how Millwall season?
There is no such thing as a realistic ambition. An ambition's an ambition. Realism is a different thing completely. That's particularly true in football. My ambition at the start of the season was to get in the playoffs. Now, many will argue that's not realistic, but 2 seasons ago, with 4 games to go, we were in a playoff position. And no one would have said that was realistic at the start of the season. Look, it's a division where everyone can beat everybody. I think in our first season up, we actually went and won 5 away games on the trot. I might have got that wrong. That might have been the season before. But I think it was in this division. Who knows? We might do that again. And one thing I do remember when managers are under pressure, Gary Johnson, who's now the manager of Bristol City, he once lost 10 games on the trot and then got the team promoted. So I'm not worried at all about Blackburn. Obviously, would like to see a better display in the second half. Roll on Saturday.
Who, if you could pick out a few players, Jeff, who's been kind of the impressive players at the start of the season, who would you expect to be crucial players for the rest of the season for Millwall?
I think you always want the best goalkeeper you can possibly have, particularly if you're in a division which is testing you for strength. And let's face it, Millwall, I think, over the last 20 years, probably the 45th best supported club in the English league system. So the bottom half of the Championship is always going to be a challenge at the moment. Must have a good goalkeeper. I feel sure we've got one. But we've got many players here that are up to this standard. And I'm confident that it won't be a question of individuals. But many supporters were calling for Molumby to start the game on Saturday. Others were calling for Bodvarsson, the Icelandic centre-forward, who played against England in the World Cup. And they both started that game, and we lost. Neil has now a 20-man squad. It's not a luxury he's had before, and therefore, as a manager, he's having to learn to deal with that. Previously, we were thinking, who the hell can we play there? Now it's who the hell can we leave out there? And, he's a great guy and a great manager, and I think we'll get a good win on Saturday. I really do.
I wanted to get your views, Jeff, on Millwall's League Cup exit. They were stunned by Oxford United on penalties. Were you disappointed that Millwall went out so early, or does that mean that Millwall can now place their concentration up until the FA Cup gets underway fully on the league?
I think the most important thing about the League Cup for Neil and for the team was to go on in that competition, to give players a chance to play, because we were still playing catch-up in one or two instances, players that hadn't been training pre-season. So another game in the League Cup would have been helpful. Keiran, there is something I would like to talk with you about, if I may. I feel I have to talk about the allegations about Millwall in connection with racism. A lot of people have moaned about the decision of the FA the other week, but I ask you, when there is an instance of some chanting in your crowd, what is the gold standard? The gold standard is that the fans themselves should find it unacceptable, police it themselves and put a stop to it. That's exactly what happened in that instance. Exactly what happened. I think Millwall have been totally misjudged over many, many years, and that particular thing made me angry. I'll point out that independent FA panel only ruled against Millwall 2-1, and they put in a fine and an action plan. In the action plan, most of it the club are already doing. I think it was an easy scapegoat to pick on. I would ask the authorities to charge every club where any supporters have chanted anything in their home game. It will soon become ridiculous. However, let's not make any bones about it. It is something the game and Millwall and all supporters that I know want to put a stop to, and I hope it reduces and reduces.
I was going to ask you finally then about that, Jeff. What do you think needs to be done? Because it's not just a football problem, it's a societal problem at the moment. Is it a case of that we need to go right down to the basics of it with education? That is the ultimate way of eradicating it. What other measures do you think football clubs around the country and around Europe, actually, because we're seeing it in Italy quite a lot at the moment, what needs to be done to try and, well, we may never get rid of racism, but what needs to be done in football in particular to get rid of it?
Kind of thing are identified, picked out, and we don't want anything to do with them. And that's what happened on that occasion. I mean, it lasted 14 seconds. Probably about 8 people were doing it. The surrounding fans put a stop to it. Frankly, well done, Millwall fans. And if everybody else did that, I'd be congratulating them as well.
Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, Jeff.
9 till 10 p.m. with No One Likes Us Talking. The Millwall Fan Show. All of your latest from the Championship side. Every Friday night on Love Sport. The station giving fans a voice.